Welcome to the Rider Outsiders, where we talk CFL football and your Saskatchewan Roughriders. I'm Mitch Wiles with Dylan Robson and the self-professed genius of Canadian football, Bryce Wiles. Dylan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. I'm doing great. Bryce, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just got back off the road, and I'm home, and I'm ready to talk football with you guys.
On the road again. Something on the road again.
There it comes. Dylan's in the mood to
sing.
sing.
You know what?
Rider win.
Maybe I
Dylan's
should be
singing on the podcast.
Riders win. Riders win. Riders win.
I think I should be singing "Got a bye again." Got another bye this week. A bye again.
Oh, the old CFL
bye week.
buys. It's been a whole season of buys, hey?
Guys, it's time for some quick hits. All right, first up, as we all know, the Riders beat the Lions, but not without a heavy price tag. Zach Claros and Trey Mason both injured during the game. Question to you, Bryce. Will we see Zach and Trey Mason in the playoffs? We got a bye week to rest up.
I think we'll for sure see Zach Claros in the playoffs. I don't know too much about Trey Mason's injury, but it looks like it might be possibly more than a week to recover from that when you get a leg injury.
Yeah, definitely looked like some sort of knee injury, some sort of leg injury. A little bit worse than Zach, but Zach's got the concussion problems, right? So who knows how long he's out after a possible concussion. Dylan, what do you think?
What do I think about Zach Collaros? I mean, that's a rough point to start on because oh my God,
that's the main thing.
Andre Proulx.
Oh yes.
Andre Proulx, his name gets called at the beginning of the football game, and of course the stadium rings with boos and I'm not talking about the Pilsner, I'm talking about the Boo Birds because they know Andre Proulx is going to go ahead and do something like completely ignore a blatant, vicious headshot. I mean, it was top of Odell Willis's helmet to the ear hole of Zach Collaros. And I mean, it was textbook roughing the passer. Textbook. They're gonna write a textbook about it because the refs don't understand it. Yeah. They're gonna use a screenshot from that game.
That's the picture when you look it up.
This is what it is.
Yeah. When you search it online, roughing the passer.
Oh yeah, you hit him with the top of your head right in the chin strap. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unnecessary. But beside the rough hit, we'll talk about that during the game discussion. But the question, Dylan, Zach Claros, will he be ready for the playoffs? We don't know if it's going to be the Western Final or the semifinal. We still got a chance at first, but the best you can answer it, will he be ready?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, he will.
And Trey Mason?
Trey Mason's, he'll be ready too. I think he's going to be ready. I'm confident everyone's going to be ready, and if we don't get them ready, well, if we don't get Trey Mason ready, we got depth. So I'm not too worried about Mason. My focus is on Zach. Come on, Zach.
All right, next. Will BC beat Calgary next week, the last game of the week, last game of the season, and hand the Riders first place in the West? Will it happen? Dylan, I'm starting with you.
You know what? I said it a few weeks ago. I said, let's do it. Let's get Calgary. Let's chase them and let's knock them off their pedestal. Yeah, BC's going to get the big win.
Now, we were discussing this before we started the podcast, and it looks like BC is crossing over regardless. So it's hard to say if they're going to play everybody, if they're going to start resting players. Bryce, do you see BC beating Calgary and the Riders getting first in the West?
Well, like I said it before, like Dylan had this dream that he'd been dreaming all season, that the Riders would get first place, the moon aligned with the stars and Mars and everything. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to say, against my better judgment, I think BC is going to beat Calgary at home, even though they have nothing to play for. I think they might just be the spoiler in this one. Those teams enjoy being that spoiler kind of team, and I think BC is going to get them, and they're a good home team, so Calgary's got their work cut out for them.
All right, and the last game of the week this week was a rematch between Montreal and Toronto, and Manziel gets his first win in the CFL, finally. And we've been sort of asking this question all year, and some of our answers have been changing. Dylan, will we see Manziel in the CFL next year?
Well, the Alouettes, didn't they just re-sign their other quarterbacks to? I know they signed Pipkin. So, oh God, it's a tough question. I think we will see him in the CFL. I don't know if it'll be with Montreal.
And you're right. Yeah, just hours ago, Alouettes extend quarterback Antonio Pipkin, Vernon Adams Jr., former Roughrider, and Jeff Matthews. So they extended 3 quarterbacks to next year. Not in that list is Manziel, but Manziel, as you noted in previous episodes, there's another year in his contract, right? So he's if he's going to be in the CFL, either trade him away or he should be there. But I don't know.
Yeah, isn't there a clause though that he signed a 2-year contract, but he can opt out of his last year or something like that? So it's a bit of a mystery.
Those option years
they just changed.
I thought
they changed that rule, I think.
Yeah, they got rid of that option thing, but he can still retire and say, I'm done. You know, after having the rough season he had, he could say he's had enough. But at least from interviews and whatnot, it looks like he's keen to keep playing, but you never know.
After this year, no one would question it, yeah.
All right, we're moving on. The next one, I'm going to hand it off to Dylan. He knows a little bit more about this than I do. What's going on with CFL Podcast Awards?
Yeah,
Dylan?
So this is what's going on with the Podcast Awards. I don't really know what's going on with the Podcast Awards. That's what's going on with the Podcast Awards, because there's some Twitter account doing the Podcast Awards, and the Rider Outsiders, they aren't even nominated. You know, when a celebrity loses the Academy Awards, and they said, you know what, it was nice just to be nominated. That's a sentiment I really understand right now. It would have been nice just to be nominated.
I agree.
Yeah.
The Twitter account was the CFLT Awards. So I don't know what the CFLT Awards. I don't know what the T stands for. I can put together the rest, but they got the favorite podcast. So right now we got
Rider Outsider
Piffles
fans out
podcast.
There. Yeah, go ahead.
We got the Calgary Horseman podcast, BC Lions Den, and the Edmonton Empire. I don't know. Regardless, you know, we could have been nominated.
So if you're a fan of the Rider Outsiders, maybe tweet these guys. Get us included in this list. All right.
I just might.
You just might. I don't know. I don't think awards are that important though.
That's loser talk, Bryce. That's loser talk.
What is an award? Like, yeah,
it's shiny for the mantle.
Oh, it's like what Jerry Seinfeld did. I don't want to be the guy winning the award. I want to be the guy in the audience making fun of how stupid the awards are. That's the Rider Outsiders, because we're the outsiders. We're not involved in all that.
All right, well, you got your chance now. Bryce, what do you think about these CFL podcast awards?
I think they're dumb. I think they're stupid.
All right,
it's
time to talk some Riders versus Lions. The Riders defeated the Lions at home 35-16. It was a defensive showcase. I believe there was 2 sacks, a forced fumble, 2 interceptions. What a game. Dylan, you were there. What was it like? It was
an awesome game. You know, I want to make a point there. At the end there, you said 35-16. Live at the game, we bumped up the score. I was looking at the scoreboard, and it was the fourth quarter. It was right near the end. There was like 2 minutes left. All of a sudden, we bumped it up to 36. So as far as I'm concerned, it was 36-16. I don't know why they screwed, but they left it like that for the whole game, 36-16. But so hey, you know,
things you only know if you were at the game. So
yeah, we'll keep that in mind when the playoffs come around.
That's
we
right.
need that extra rouge, just one little notch. Yep.
So
you know what? We were dressed up. It was the Halloween game. I had my luchador, officially licensed Rough Riders luchador mask on. I had the cape blowing in the wind. I had the jersey with the pins, of course, my classic jersey. And then my wife Jody, she had made this lion pelt, and she had the warrior face paint, and she had the X'd out eyes of the lion's head over top of her head. She was wearing like a crown, like she was Jon Snow or something like that, and it was so awesome that we got a chance to actually be on TSN. So we're screaming there for a moment. It was great atmosphere, hell of a game. Glad we made it out. Last regular season game of the year.
Dylan, what did you think of the entrance there the Riders had? They were wearing some masks before they came out of the big blow up helmet.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. You got to encourage. This is what it's all about. Live football. You got to be there. You got to go watch it, man. I love it. And they were they made their entrance through the fire and fireworks. They had the Riders were actually throwing out footballs. They had mini footballs in the end zones. They were tossing that out to the fans. And yeah, it was a hell of an atmosphere.
The TSN player of the game, Cameron Marshall, 19 carries, 134 yards, 7-yard average, running with purpose. What do you think of Cameron Marshall coming in to replace the injured Trey Mason?
Well, I thought he did pretty good. He did have that one fumble, right? But for the most part, he was taking on the responsibility of being that lead running back, and that's pretty good with the injury to Trey Mason and going into the playoffs. We got a bye week, so I think everything will just fall into place.
Yeah, and it reminds me of that double barrel offense that Brian Jones was talking about. Mm-hmm. Receiver Brian Jones on the show last week, and how everybody is practicing like they're the starter with the Chris Jones football team. There's no backups getting the backup practice. I mean, I assume there's a little bit of a difference, but that everyone is going to be ready to start. Yeah. So Cameron Marshall was ready, and he showed it.
And I was literally just writing in my notes, man, Trey Mason is looking great. And then he goes down with a knee injury, which could be anywhere, but that could be 6 weeks. He could be out with that. But it
could be 2, could be 6.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get first place. He has 2 weeks to rest up, and then we can have both of them. Because I love that 2-back offense, right? 2 good backs. You can bring them in back and forth. And in the fourth quarter, you got a fresh back. Now, let's stay on the positives a little bit longer, because there's definitely some question marks here with the team. But the defense, as I mentioned earlier, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble. We saw some amazing play. But we had, an Antigua interception off the Jefferson tip. And then we had Gainey with a pick 6. My question to you guys, is this the best Rider defense you can remember? Because I can't remember a better Rider defense.
Well, you were just saying there, Willie Jefferson had the tip. He also had the strip where he stripped Lule, I think there. But Willie Jefferson is just playing great defensive football. Not always going for the sack, but he's one of those guys that gets those knockdowns. He gets those tips. And I was going to mention to Dylan, he might not have been able to hear this, but that Ed Gainey interception where he ran it back for that touchdown, we heard Suter say something like, "That's number 11 from the defense, from number 11." And I just kind of had a memory of when we went back to
it was number 11.
Oh,
it was the 11th interception from the defense.
No.
From number 11.
I think it was the 11th touchdown by the defense. That's what they're yakking about during the game.
Oh,
because that's a record for the defense,
right?
Scoring 11 touchdowns in a season.
I know that.
So that's number 11.
With number 11. Yeah. Too bad it wasn't on the 11-yard line. That just would have been.
But he did cross the 11-yard line. If that's helpful.
It was like long yards.
In all honesty,
like over 40.
Bryce, do you remember a better Rider defense than this defense?
No, I don't. This is an amazing defense. Like you can't remember
I can't.
A Rider defense like this.
Like John Chick, when he was playing, he was dominant. But to have a whole defense this good, it's like we have so many playmakers on the defense. Dylan, what do you think about this defense?
I think I got some nicknames ready. I'm thinking like the incomparable. No, that's not right. The peerless and the fearless Riders defense. The supreme How about defense supreme? How's that one? Defense supreme. I mean, there's so many words you could use to describe this. I noticed Jefferson. I mean, he's an absolute beast. Yeah. I think internally, and we mentioned this, we had an interview earlier in the season. Internally, these guys, they are calling themselves the Savages. That's right. That's what they're calling themselves.
That's right.
Because Jefferson's got the bandana, and it says it right on his bandana. But, yeah, I don't think I've seen a better defense. This is a Chris Jones-built defense. This is his vision. And without that defense, we're not winning anywhere near as many games.
Dylan, weren't you were interviewing Zach Evans there. Didn't he say something about how he wanted to score?
That's right. Zach Evans also scored a touchdown in the game. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, so sometimes I don't know what question I'm going to ask these football players. So I ask around some coworkers and some buddies. Asked one buddy of mine, what should I ask Zach Evans? He's first thing out of his mouth was ask him, would you rather recover or would you rather strip the ball and cause a fumble for a teammate to recover, or would you rather recover a fumble and score the touchdown? So it was a would you rather question. And Zach Evans immediately said, oh, geez, I'd rather score the touchdown. Gotta be the TD. So congratulations to Zach Evans. You got that TD. And
he looked mighty happy.
The place went nuts. Yeah. The place went nuts, yeah.
Arguably the best defense in recent memory of the Riders. But we got to flip this on the head and go, this offense, what is sort of going on here? I guess it was moving not bad with Zach in, but if we look at some numbers, you know, they're hot one week, they're cold the next week. Zach, 5 for 8, 52 before he gets pulled. He didn't come out of, halftime. He didn't come back for the second half. Bridge, 4 for 9, 44 yards. So we pretty much had no offensive pressure aside from hand the ball to Marshall. Just give the ball to Marshall. That's all we did. And for some reason, the Lions couldn't stop it. I was thinking that our lead was going to sort of evaporate over those 2 quarters, but for some reason, the defense kept scoring and Marshall kept running. This offense, are you guys worried? Because without Zach, obviously, we have an issue, but even with Zach, it seems we're hot and cold some days.
Well, I think what the Riders do because we just got off talking about how great the defense is, and what the Riders do on the offense is they might not be an explosive, high-scoring offense, but they manage the game with the time of possession. The Riders have won; they're winning a lot of games, and I think that's how they're doing it with the time of possession. So you're not seeing lots of stats. No one looks at the time of possession stat, but if you can keep the other offense off the field, you're going to win more games. Like, that's kind of like a John Madden almost logical saying, but I think that's kind of the way that offense might be built is to take time off the clock, kick lots of field goals. We saw lots of field goals this season from Brett
over 50.
Lothar.
Yeah.
And I was even going to mention, too, talking about the offense, we got Shaq Evans for the whole season, 50 receptions, 785 yards, but 0 touchdown receptions for a receiver who gets 785 yards, not 1 touchdown on the season. The Riders really need to work on how they can just get into the red zone and finish, close and score some touchdowns, because in the playoffs, we're going to need that going forward to win.
Yeah, and you did mention Lowther. Dang.
Lowther. The T is silent now? Or?
Lowther.
It's Lowther, right?
Lowther.
That's what I said.
Lowther.
You mentioned Lowther, 4 for 5, long of 45, just missed from 49. So another great game for him. Sort of an unsung hero most weeks. Tons of points. Dylan, what do you think about this sort of hot and cold offense?
You know what? I was not very concerned at the BC game with the cold offense. Jones knew the game was manageable. Jones isn't going to give more. That's how he fights. You know what? That's how Jones fights. He doesn't give more than is necessary to win the game. So we'll see the team. It looks like it looks like the offense might be struggling or slow or unable to get it done. But these are happenings in games that we're all winning. We're winning all of these games. Jones isn't going to give more than is needed to win the games. I've seen it every single win that we've had. It's just like Bryce mentioned it, how we were managing the clock. And I wasn't too concerned. I will say that Bridge did not look that spectacular.
No.
There might have been some plays where Bridge was.
What was he thinking?
You know what? He's trigger shy. He's
That's what I was going to say.
The Bridge we knew before wasn't trigger shy. He was trigger happy. He's like, I got to get this job. I got to get this win. I'm going to throw this ball. But now it's like he's into that next echelon where he's got to make the smart decisions.
That's right.
And he gets afraid. He gets afraid to make those smart decisions.
Just can't throw the pick.
It's kind of like, yeah.
So he looked like he's elusive as always, right? But did not look like he had any command on the field. That time count just drove me nuts.
If you hesitate as a quarterback for half a second, for 1 second maybe, like the guy's covered. That open receiver suddenly becomes a potential pick, right? And that's what you see. You see Bridge, he looks and he's like, oh, right there. No, too late. Like that's how he seems to play now.
Oh, well, there's a reason why he's second string, and you can definitely see it. And I was just going to echo what Dylan was saying, because when we were on the road, right, and we were able to stream some of the game, and then we started to get into one of those kind of no service areas, and then it's almost better to listen to it on the radio when you're kind of on a road trip. It's nothing better than listening to a Rider game while you're driving. Back on point. It's exactly what I said. I was like, come on, pull the trigger. Like, you just saw it. Like, he was not throwing it at all. It just seems like he was just waiting to kind of scramble. And, that's why he's not a starter. That's for sure.
Now, just one last point on Cameron Marshall. Now, Bryce, you might know this better than me. He reminded me of Wes Cates. Now, you're a Wes Cates fan.
Yes.
Is that a fair comparison, their style or whatnot, or is that not?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely reminded me of Wes Cates, the way he's kind of a grinder. Just, grinding it out, man. Looks like a good running back.
Now, if Zach's good to play, I think we got a great chance. If we're up to Bridge, I know we were running with Marshall, even though the BC Lions knew we were running and they couldn't stop us, but I just can't see that working through an entire playoff game. Hope to heck Zach is healthy. Dylan, anything else on the game?
Oh, I got so much on the game.
Go for it.
Purifoy, that opening kickoff of the second half, fumbles the ball, and then the BC recovers the fumble. The very next play, Purifoy botches the coverage, and BC scores a long touchdown pass.
Suter called him out.
And he's a passionate guy, that Purifoy. We've mentioned that on the show before, how intense he can be at practice. And what did Jones do? Jones put Purifoy right back into the return position, and Purifoy cranks out like a 50-yard return, and then the very next return, Purifoy cranked out another one, and then I kept watching number 28 there, and he was hyped up. That fumble and that blown coverage irked him bad, and it didn't rattle him. He recovered well, so it was good to see Purifoy recover after those two mishaps. I also want to say Jefferson, Willie Jefferson. I mean, easily the Rough Riders Defensive Player of the Year, if you're asking me.
Really? The guy, interesting. Okay.
Don't you think? I mean, God, he's unreal.
I agree.
Can't throw you can't throw the ball in his direction. He's going to bat it down, or he's going to pick it off because he's 9 feet tall and he's like 800 pounds of muscle, and he's going to.
You can tell he had some time in the NFL for sure. He has that NFL sort of athleticism and that body, right?
His body,
wingspan is huge.
Yeah.
But what I love about this defense, so it's sort of like he's getting it's the way Jones has set up Toby Antigua. He's moving all over the field. He has interceptions for touchdowns. He has sacks. He's making plays. Big plays in a lot of games. So he's one of my favorite players there on the defense, but it's partly because of the role he's in.
Yeah. The Rome, what did they say he was, Dylan?
The Rover or the Roamer or something?
No, anywhere I may roam.
Yeah, he called it the Roamer position or the Toby position. I think when he talked to him in the interview. And yeah, I mentioned the wherever I may roam.
Because it's Metallica. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's Metallica. Carve upon my stone. My body alive, but still I roam. Yeah, yeah. How's that for you? All
So
right.
Toby's
pretty good.
Let's just talk about Metallica now, guys.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Toby's got 3 interceptions, 2 sacks. He has 1 interception for a touchdown. But so those are 2 players on the defense, right? But we also have the leading, the sack leader for the league, Charleston Hughes, on the other side.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to discount him as your defensive player of the year either.
He was heavy earlier in the season, the last half of the season. Charleston Hughes less consistent. I'm going to say that. No knock on Charleston Hughes, but looking at it from the numbers point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they might have been double teaming a little bit more in the second half of the season when they realized, oh crap, he has 12 sacks already. So he currently has 15 sacks, still in the lead. Next one up is Mika Johnson with 13. But you're right. His second half has been falling down a little bit, and then he's had some court issues. But we'll leave that alone for now.
Well, why don't we get back to what everybody wants to talk about, and that is Odell Willis with the dirty hit. What do you guys think? Do you think there should be some sort of penalty or something? Do you think the league is going to punish Odell Willis, or is this just going to be not addressed?
Now, they showed on the TSN broadcast Odell Willis hitting Zach Klaus a couple years ago. Very similar hit. He got suspended for that one, I believe. So it's hard to say why you wouldn't get suspended for this hit. It looked pretty unnecessary. Dylan, what do you think?
You know what? If by any chance we were to ever get a chance to talk to the CFL commissioner, I might want to suggest something. If you knock out a player, give him a concussion from a head-to-head shot, like we saw, and he misses games, I would say the suspension is for as many games as the player you knocked out has to miss. And I mean that exactly like that. So, I mean, if he's out for 3 weeks, Willis is out for 3 weeks. If Collares' season is done, Willis' season is done. If they're serious about stopping headshots, you have to make sure players don't aim for the head. That was not an incidental headshot. That was top of the helmet to the ear hole. I mean, there's no way
it's so weird.
He didn't try to do that.
Like, I've complained in the past when the refs got so crazy that if you touched the helmet with your pinky finger of the quarterback, boom, 15-yard flag, right? Then how in the hell would this hit not be called a roughing the passer is beyond me. But it seems like we need to stop the headshots and not necessarily stop the less impact shots that have no. The quarterback's not injured by the swat, the accidental swat of the hand.
Well, I think it was interesting that Dylan was even saying Zach got hit and he looked a little woozy.
Yeah,
and he didn't really want to come out, and then they had to call a timeout or something, right? And then Jones had to challenge the no call and get it overturned because there was not going to be a call on the field at all. And then
and where they were on the field, they didn't even get the full 15 yards. I think it was half the distance to the goal line, which is weird.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah,
I was going to say we were standing at the just over the Pilsner zone there. We're standing in the south end zone, so we saw Zach Collares get up after that hit, and then he was looking to the sidelines as he was getting up, calls the play, still looking to the sidelines, and he's looking at the clock and realizes, I'm just going to call a timeout. Calls a timeout, and then he's screaming at the referee as he's walking to the sidelines, and the referee, I don't know what's going on, and then Zach went to Jones. That's when they show the replay on the big screen, and Jones threw the challenge. So, yeah, we had to burn a timeout and waste a challenge.
On principle.
So that hit got reviewed. Yeah.
I think they got – well, I think in the end they got the call right. And I also think they made the right choice to take Zach out of the game in the halftime.
That's a good point you bring up. Zach kept playing. And there's supposed to be like a CFL independent spotter that can say, no, that dude just got hit in the head. For precautionary reasons, he needs to check concussion protocol. So I don't know how he was allowed to continue to play. And I think Suter was going on about that on the broadcast. Like, why you have these spotters if they're not going to come in there and do something about it?
He definitely looked like he looked shooken up.
Or at least when the replay came up, right? Is this guy not allowed to look at the replay and see, holy crap, 250-pound guy just rammed his head into this guy's chin strap and his head went off the ground.
Yeah, and the other thing is they overturned the call, so it was roughing the passer after they looked at it, and then the spotters still didn't take him out for any protocol. So, but then they somehow they made the call at halftime, right? So, I don't know.
All right, well, does that bring us to the end of the game talk?
Well, I just want to say the Riders look better than BC in all facets.
That's right.
We struggled a little bit on offense, but our offense was able to shut the BC Lions defense to a point where they really weren't stopping us. We put up 35 or 36 points on the board by the end of the night. What's BC's kicker? What's his name?
Is that
Long?
They have Ty Long? I can check.
Ty Long? Long? More like wide. Missed a 39-yarder. Had to get that in there. See, because he missed wide.
I get it. I think I get it. Yeah.
Wide left.
So, and we scored 35 or 36 points, depending on if you're at the stadium. We did this game with this sort of alternative O-line that we're playing, right? We have it's Coleman, it's a new guy, and then Labatt's at center, and then St. John, the old number 1 draft pick that was like, a day away from just being a washout of the CFL, is all of a sudden playing the best football of his life. And then on the other side is it Cofield, I believe. So this is a new mix. This is with Clark out and Bladdock's out. Playing good. Running for 130 yards.
We still have Dakota Shepley. Dakota Shepley wasn't playing either. So I imagine next game, by the time, I bet you'll start in the playoffs. Like, why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Or at least rotate him in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see where he's sitting on the roster real quick here.
Well, yeah, they're going to need, I think that's a good call. They're going to need some fresh O-line going into the playoffs. A lot of those O-linemen, especially because there's no subs on the Riders, they're going to be banged up from a whole season of pretty much getting in a fist fight with a guy for the entire game. And I think it's going to be good with the fresh O-line going forward in the playoffs here.
All right, so Dakota Shepley is not showing up on the Riders' website official roster. But
weird.
Let me just double check the. So if he's on the team, he should show up in the depth charts for the game, right? Shepley. What the fudge? It's possible they just haven't you have to get the contract whatever by the league.
Yeah,
then it becomes official. Maybe they're slow playing that to not
we
pay
still
him.
got him.
Still got him. He's going to play.
Or maybe he doesn't show up until he reports. But you said you saw him there 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, and he did a scrum and everything. Yeah, he was practicing with the team.
Yeah, so October 16th, he's announced by what Global News is being signed. But he is not on the roster. Interesting.
Nah, let's leave it.
Let that lie? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Twitter. I know the past couple of weeks I've been watching some of the action there. We got a good shout out from at CT Bleed Green, Chris Thompson, who says, you want to know what the worst feeling in the world is? Having nobody to talk CFL football with. At least I have fantastic podcasts to listen to. He lists few podcasts, ours included. Keep up the great work. He wasn't the only one, though. Ron Montgomery, good old Montgomery, he says, it's really hard to find someone in Alabama to talk CFL with. So, I mean, I don't know. What I'm guessing here is that Ron is actually from Alabama, unless he's talking about Chris Thompson. But so I asked Ron, I said, hey, Ron, any points you want to bring up? We'll talk about them on the podcast. This is true Rider fan. right here. He replies back, I've got faith in the Riders. I plan on seeing them in the Grey Cup. I just hope I can find some clothes that will keep me warm. So maybe he's traveling all the way up from Alabama, and he's worried about that Edmonton cold. But either way, Riders in the Grey Cup. Ron Montgomery on Twitter says it's going to happen. So
another shout out.
I got to believe Ron.
You got to believe Ron. Another shout out. One of our longest listeners, Daryl Dorosh. He was, I think, one of the first people to subscribe on their SoundCloud, and he's been following us since on our Spreaker.com. So a big shout out to Daryl Dorosh. Thanks for listening. And so while we don't have an interview this week, check it out what we got for next week. We have the commissioner of the CFL, Randy Ambrosie, coming on the show.
What?
That's right.
The commish.
The commish is coming on the show. So guys, I got a list of stuff to ask him, but I want to talk about expansion. I want to talk about how he thinks we can turn around, or the league can turn around the Argos, and tons of stuff to talk about. What do you guys are thinking we should really get into with Randy Ambrosie?
I'd really like to get into that head-to-head hit that we saw. I'd like to see. I mean, I mentioned earlier about how if you knock a player out from a head-to-head shot like that, your suspension should fit how much time that player's out. Maybe you cap that at 5 games or something, but I would like to see them be a lot stricter on the suspensions after those violent head-to-head hits. The ones that are, like you said, a tap or accidental, it's one thing. But when you come straight at a guy like that, that's different. Right. I'd ask him.
Oh, I'm going to say this, what I was saying last week was the pass interference, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe we could get a clear definition of what pass interference is, and maybe move that also into a category where the coaches aren't allowed to challenge pass interference, just to kind of make it more of a judgment call from the refs at the game. Because if you look at pass interference in slow motion enough times, you're going to see something.
A graze of a hand. And it's an interesting penalty because it can be the potential of yardage on pass interference is what? It's 109 yards, right? Like it's the biggest potential penalty in the game. Like it's a point of contact foul. Nothing else is like that. So if there's a different version of pass interference, right? Contacting receiver, which is about 10 yards, I believe. Dylan, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is.
I wonder if there needs to be like some other mid-range thing or whatnot, because you're having these. You grab a jersey 50 yards down the field, and all of a sudden that's a 50-yard penalty. Where you could take a headshot on a quarterback, and it's only 15 maximum. I'm not sure. You know what potential is there, but it doesn't really seem fair. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anywho, we got Randy Ambrosie on the show next week. Pretty excited about that, and big thanks to the league for allowing him to come on the show, or thanks to him for making the time to come on the show. Bryce, where are we going next?
Well, we're going to go to the Rouge. You know, it's a weekly segment we have here on the RO podcast where our hosts they give 1 point about the CFL that they want to talk about. And I'm gonna start it off here with a little fun, fluffy Rouge. I know maybe those hot button topics aren't what everybody wants to talk about, but how about this? You saw the Riders win, right? They win, and of course it's the last game of their regular season. So Coach Jones gets the Gatorade bath, right? You guys see that? Mm-hmm. He got kind of
saw it, yeah.
And I'm just saying, now he's gonna have to wash his diversity shirt, because he's been wearing that thing the whole season, and if he might be a superstitious guy, he might not have washed it because they got 12 wins, right? So I'm wondering what kind of shirt he's going to be wearing in the playoffs, and if that Gatorade bath kind of ruined his lucky shirt. I don't know.
He's going to be wearing a stained Gatorade shirt next week.
I think so,
or hopefully 3 weeks. Dylan, what do you got for the Rouge?
Got to air dry that thing. Just hang to dry.
Yeah.
Hang to dry.
Not machine wash that. Get all the luck washed off it.
Here's what I got. So let's go back 11 years. Look at the 2007 season. Kerry Joseph Kerry Joseph leads the Riders to a Grey Cup victory. That was really the beginning of a new era for Rough Rider football. The Grey Cup drought was over. Riders were looking good after that. 2008, we didn't make the Grey Cup. 2009, we did. 2010, we made the Grey Cup. Didn't win it either of those years. Damn you, Montreal. The point is, that was exciting time for Rider football. Those were the years that I first got my season tickets. My wife and I, we started going to the games in 2007. Then we were there for every game since. And stadium got torn down, built a new one. And what are we at now? We're in a new era of Rider football. We are in the Chris Jones era, the new stadium era. Let's look at Jones's numbers. 2016, he joined the Riders. Riders were 5-13. 2017, Riders were 10-8. 2018, we are 12-6 and about to host a home playoff game. There were a lot of Jones skeptics out there. You see them every loss, and sometimes during the wins. What is Jones doing? What is Jones doing? Look at the numbers. They speak for themselves. 12-6 this year. I mean, the Riders are the real deal. Jones has said that he's going to build a team, championship caliber. He said it from day one. And that's what he's done. I'm not saying Grey Cup's guaranteed, but what I am saying is the Jones numbers speaks for themselves, and the Jones era is upon us. Revel in it, gentlemen.
Yeah. Good Rouge.
Nicely said, nicely put. For myself, I just like to point out that they have the quarterback with the most passing yards, but the Edmonton Eskimos are missing the playoffs, and it's something that we talked about on this show weeks ago, that they started to spin their tires, and I called it. They're missing the playoffs. We pumped Mike Riley as the best quarterback in the league, and maybe he still is. But his team is not making the playoffs. The Edmonton Eskimos are the worst team in the West.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Wow. Yeah.
And the Grey Cup's in Edmonton.
Edmonton.
Can't be happy.
Like, I would like to, I don't have it in front of me, but if we looked at predictions from some of the CFL writers and whatnot at the start of the league, start of the season, Edmonton, they're seen as a powerhouse with Mike Riley there.
Mm-hmm.
Not making the playoffs. That's tough, but they'll have to make some changes and come back. Let's move on.
Tough but fair.
Tough but fair. That's right. But hey, Winnipeg and BC have had strong second halves of the season. All right, that week clapping means it's time for the Meh of the Week. Bryce, I assume that's you clapping. So, what's your Meh this week?
Well, my Meh of the Week is just going to be, we're all from Saskatchewan, and what do we do when you're from Saskatchewan? You talk about the weather if you got nothing else to talk about. And I'm going to talk about the games we saw. I mean, I've mentioned this before. Game in Montreal is the bird game. Again, you're trying to watch the game. The birds are flying in front of the camera. You're watching the other game there in Hamilton, the rain game. And how do they not get a squeegee? There's raindrops all over the camera lens. Like it's like smeared, or these little droplets. And then probably you couldn't do anything but the second half fog game in Winnipeg. I don't know if you guys saw that. Mm-hmm. Pretty tough to watch. So I'm thinking, Mother Nature, help us out, okay? We want to watch football, and Mother Nature is kind of playing the jokes on us this week.
Dylan?
Well, it was windy, and Brett Lowther, he was kicking into that wind. All of his kicks had a big curve on them. He knew how to handle Mother Nature's jokes, per se. Yeah, he did pretty good. You know what I'm going to say for the Met? I mean, come on. Dear God.
Are you with me? I mean, we have the same one. Oh, the referees.
Yeah, the referees.
Okay.
Missing. You don't miss that headshot. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to burn a timeout for the league to catch that headshot, and you don't have to burn a challenge for the league to catch that headshot. That was a clear pass interference. That's the thing they look for. Even as the play was developing, you can see this is going to be one of those plays where Zach takes a hit at the end of the play. So I'm going to watch him. Like, you could see it coming a mile away. And you see Odell Willis. What was the referee looking at? The guy who's there to look at Zach Collaros. What did he see? Like, what was he seeing? That's my man.
I like it. That's, can't argue with that, man. But I was in his corner for so long, and then I was so disappointed. 4 for 9, 44 yards. That's in a full half of play. Brandon Bridge. You got too much experience to play like that. You got to have more. This is the guy that we were all hoping is on the cusp of being a starting quarterback in this league. And I just didn't see it. I saw a very elusive athlete, but not a starting quarterback. That's my man this week. Shall we go on to predictions?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, every week, that's why people tune into the RO podcast, because they want to know what the genius is going to think is going to happen here. We got Toronto in Ottawa. And, you got to go with Ottawa in this one. They're first in the East, and Toronto is just, dead last. So, yeah, Ottawa for the win. Friday night game.
Yep, I see that, unless for some reason they sit everybody. Dylan, what do you think?
Before we go ahead, I just want to point out that last week, I was 100% on picks.
You were.
I said Winnipeg would beat Calgary. I said Ottawa would beat Hamilton. I said the Riders would beat BC. That's what happened.
Montreal beat Toronto. But, yes, I picked Hamilton to beat Ottawa. I was wrong. Yeah. Well, then who do you got? Who do you got, Dylan?
Well, I'm going to say Ottawa. Ottawa beats Toronto. Yeah.
All right. Well, who do you have for the next game? Winnipeg in Edmonton on Saturday.
Winnipeg's going to win. Edmonton's broken, beaten, bruised.
Oh, yeah.
Scarred.
I buy that. Yeah. I'm with Winnipeg. Bryce, you with Winnipeg?
Winnipeg wins this one pretty easily. They're going to get some momentum because they're going into the playoffs. Edmonton's not. Edmonton's got, their jerseys are putting away. Yeah, their season's done.
That's the triple header Saturday. Next up, Montreal in Hamilton. I'm going to go with Hamilton. Go out on a limb on that one. Bryce?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hamilton too. Just going to say they're a good team, and they lost their last one at home, so I think they're going to be ready to play and win and get some more of that momentum going into the playoffs with a win.
Yeah, I'll probably say Hamilton as well, but that means that we've all picked the same teams for every game.
That's right. Fine. We might separate a little bit on this last one. Saturday.
Oh, there's one
final
more.
Game
one more, yeah.
of the season. Calgary and BC, the big game. We need BC to win to hand Riders first place. So I'll go with BC and say a prayer. Bryce, what do you got?
You know what? I've been picking Calgary all year, and I'm actually going to go with BC on this one. I think they're going to be the spoiler. They got a really good record at home, and I think they're going to win out their last game, and I think Calgary's going to actually lose. And I think that all of Dylan's wildest dreams are going to come true, and the Riders are going to be in first place that nobody saw coming, except for Dylan.
I agree wholeheartedly. Wally Buono, this is it. This is the Buono swan song. The salt and pepper hair has turned all salt. He's salting that food every bite he takes because Buono's on his way out. And this is it. That team is going to fight. We said earlier in the podcast, the Lions don't have a whole lot to play for in that game against Calgary because it doesn't change where they go in the playoffs. But they do have something to fight for. They got Wally. That's why the BC Lions are going to beat Calgary. And that's why Calgary needs to check themselves before they wreck themselves. Because Buono's coming, and Buono's going to get the win.
All right. Now with that, that means we're at the end of the show.
So much passion.
A lot of passion there. A lot of passion. Any final words, Bryce?
No. I can't believe that I would pick BC to beat Calgary this week, but I think it's going to happen.
Dylan, the final word goes to you.
Trivia question for y'all.
Yeah.
Because now's a great time for that. Without Google, what is Chris Jones's record as the Roughriders head coach? Regular season record.
Are we 500?
Yeah. Well, sorry, Bryce. Yes.
500, yeah.
Okay, good guess. You guys both got it right. But his record is 27-27. So
All right.
that 5-13 season was pretty rough. But there you go. Good trivia. Good note to end on.
All right. That's the show for this week. For Bryce Wiles and Dylan Robson, I'm Mitch Wiles, and this was your Rider Outsiders.